This is Leave Your Mark. I'm Vince Cortese, and today's guest is Paul Jarrett, entrepreneur extraordinaire, CEO of Bulu, a logistics expert and a dynamics business builder, a former college football player and a graduate at Nebraska University. Paul is an all-around great guy and a wealth of experience and insight to share with our audience today. Thank you for being my guest, Paul.
Thank you. Next time I'll write it and I'll make it bigger and longer and better. No, I'm kidding. Thank you. That's like so nice of you to say. I hear those things. I'm kind of like, oh wait, I still have this, like, are they talking about, oh yeah. So thank you. Kind words.
Well, as I said, he's just an all-around great guy. I think you guys just got a little dose of that. Authenticity will be poured on like pancakes today.
Hi there, and welcome. Now it's time for America's favorite podcast, Leave Your Mark, with your host, Vince Cortese.
If it's fly, loose fitted, it's Cortese. If freezing, chubbers in it, it's Cortese.
Leave Your Mark is about inspiring the world, one guest at a time.
Pass the word from Brooklyn to Pittsburgh, from urban to suburb, it's Cortese, you heard?
And here is our host, Vince Cortese.
We got you here. I want to share with the story about Bulu, but before I get to that, I want to introduce who you are to the audience and what your life's like. So you're born and raised in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yes, sir.
Your mom and dad were very involved in your life. Your dad, Bill, and mom, Connie. Dad was a police officer and in law enforcement, 36 years. Your mother is a nurse. And then entrepreneurially ran the trailer park that you were raised in. So share with me a little influence on mom's side of it, because it's definitely dad's stories, but your mom having the ability to be that versatile, what influence does she have?
Man, my mom, I hit the lottery with both parents and spouse, brothers and sisters. No, I'm kidding. I love my dad. It's fascinating because, you just, when you grow up in situations and you don't know anything but your block or your row, you don't know anything but like B row, which rows are in trailer parks, right? And mobile home parks, sorry for my fellow mobile homians. You kind of don't realize, I think, in real time, some of the things that are happening. And my parents will be the first to say, like, hey, we had our first child, things were great. We had 2 jobs. We had the second one, things get expensive. And then they're like, kind of by the time I came around, number 3, they're like, yeah, we just didn't have time, and what had happened was we grew up and, we were all born and grew up in a Shamrock Mobile Home Park is the name of it. But as we grew up, my father started to recognize that when people were getting evicted from their homes, their mobile homes, aka trailers, that it was expensive, and he would sometimes help the people hook it up to the semi truck, get it out or whatever, and it was costing a couple $100 to do. So he kind of had the idea of like, well, and I think being in law enforcement, he kind of knew how that world worked. Well, he was able to somehow kind of intercept and purchase trailers for like $1. Like, so you'd go to the state, get the money or whatever, but then there's the land that you had to pay for it. But he is buying the trailer, he'd own the trailer, but it was sitting on land that was under somebody else. And then he figured out how to like rent, and eventually he just went to a bank, and we're talking like, he was like, I think between 16 to 18 years old. So, he's got family, he's got all this stuff happening, and he's kind of like takes out a massive loan. And my parents it was like a 35-year loan. It was massive. He's still probably kind of like, why did the bank ever give it to me? Right. But they worked it off. And part of the thing that we had to do to make the numbers work is they had to start buying other assets to like balance things. And then we had to work on that. So growing up, there were mom and dad. Mom managed these trailer mobile home acquisitions. She managed finding people, getting them in there, renting them out, then paying the rent for the land. Dad was doing a ton of work, all hours of the day, come home from the night shift, go work all day, back to being a police officer. And us four kids were kind of, well, actually there's three of us because the last one came way later. But the three kids, we were like the help, like we were the maintenance, we were the everything. And the only rule was you can fix everything, just don't touch electricity and don't open a pipe that's already connected to something, which is a big sewer. So it's like, don't mess with the toilet, don't mess with the lights, everything else we just fix. And, that's the part where I'm like, you didn't know any better. And he would say, go do this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm in third grade picking up a saw and, you just hear like,
Wow.
hey, if you miss, you cut a finger off, but we need this done now. And you grow up and they just started paying us like employees. And we really started to learn how
Wow.
to just identify a problem, get it done, wrap it up, do it again. And I think we were 15 before we moved out of that. I was 15 years old. Then we moved into a house with a pool and a sauna, and it was the opposite.
The whole opposite, yeah.
Yeah. So
And earned your stripes to get there too.
yeah.
So
and I
you
feel like a
mentioned
lot of-
you mentioned your siblings. So you're one
Yeah.
of four. Myself, I'm one of four too, and I'm
Yeah.
third in the birth order as well.
Oh yeah, that's middle
Yeah.
child. We need
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You're the most comfortable. You got them coming and going.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is you hit the ground running here because
Oh, yeah.
after you graduate, you got about a 7-year window where you're just starting a business, lighting it up, and then going to the next business. So you do this a handful of times. Now,
Yeah.
how much of the experience with the trailer park and work with your mom and dad, and then that work ethic you brought with you, but you had this innateness to have the ability to figure things out.
Yeah.
And so, like,
If you are listening, I created a free mini course on how to start a podcast on YouTube. It's just 9 minutes long and provides insight for you to start your podcast journey today. Click the link in the description below. Now, back to the episode.
when it's difficult to start and make one successful business, let alone multiple.
Yeah.
And that winds you up. So share with me in that 7-year window or so, what, because you joined, you got on a Complete Nutrition, you were on with Nebo, the ad agency. That's in itself is an interesting story. Share with me about that. That was started in 1871, and the
ad agency.
yeah, the ad agency.
Yeah,
Was it
it's
called
wild.
BBDO?
Oh yeah, Bernbach, Doyle, something. It's what Mad Men was based off of, the ad agency.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's wild. We had consultants in there all the time. I actually started like the first Mad Men Facebook page, and yeah, it was because I kind of had the inside scoop. But yeah, it was a wild experience to kind of go from like digging ditches in a trailer park, to like I had an office in BBDO, New York, gold plated name. I had a secretary at like 24, 25. And I was like, she's like, please give me work because I've been here and and I'm like, I don't know, give me some. So it was the juxtaposition of those worlds is just fascinating. And here is how much I think that my upbringing impacted things. When we grew up, there wasn't any allowance. They're just like, we just never even asked. It never dawned on us to be like, Mom, can I have some money? We just knew it was going to be a no. But as we all started to play sports, we started to need shoes and equipment. Our parents just kind of made a deal of like, we'll pay $20 on your shoes, everything else you got to do, or we'll go half, or, whatever it was. And so I think a lot of just trying to fit in with all the kids are pretty good at sports in our family. And so like we would get put on these all-star teams or these private school teams or like whatever it is. And man, just to blend, you got to get the right Nike shoes, you got to get that stuff. And the only way we could do that was doing more work and more complicated jobs for my parents, my father. And man, his attitude, my earliest memories are him. I'm probably not even third grade. I remember I had to reach up full stretch to hold a mower. And he was just the dude that was like, all right, watch me. Gas goes in the tank, this. That's how you start it. He'd spray orange around it. He'd say, your toes getting anywhere close to that orange, you're going to lose them. Repeat it back to me. And I'd be like, gas tank this. He goes, okay, be careful. You can kill yourself. You can lose a toe. And I'm like, he's terrifying me, right? And then he just walks off. And then you're just sitting there with it as a kid. You have a field, you have a mower, you've seen it done, but they're not hovering over you. They're not baby. And I can't imagine what some of the first things I did looked like, like, hey,
Yeah.
just move that building, move those bricks or whatever. But man, he if we completed the job and it was done decently, like we got paid.
You what's interesting though, you go through these different businesses. That's more of an ad agency than where you wind up in logistics.
Yeah.
So like now
How did
between
that
the
happen?
boots on ground training from dad and the ad agency, and then I guess it's shortly around the end of that time you meet Stephanie. And
Yeah.
so that sounds like that's like a business relationship that turns into a personal relationship, how you two met.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing I did when I transferred from Iowa State to Nebraska and said, oh, advertising, that doesn't have math or, and there's graphic design. I figured I better, just like football, I better go all in. And so I looked up the ad club before school ever started, and she was the president of the ad club. And so that's how we met. I kind of tell people, like, literally the first time that I saw Stephanie, there was a project of like branding a cookie and pitching it at ad club. That was my first interaction with her. And we just worked well together. And everywhere I went to an ad agency, she came there. And it probably took us 2 or 3 months before everybody just said, you guys keep doing what you're doing. And everything that we did, almost from day one, almost always involved a consumer product, and something was flat out broken about the ability to distribute or scale. Like they could do like a promotion with 100 things, but they could never do it more. And it's almost like we were both sitting in this room in some pretty high level meetings at these ad agencies going, but like, even if we did that, how did from here, you put it in a truck and you get it there? And they're like, well, yeah. And we're like, but that seems to be where it's breaking. Do we get multiple trucks, bigger trucks? And people are like, yeah, we don't know. And you could witness them change their strategy. So all this research and everything, and they're not addressing the problem because it's in the supply chain, and that scared them, right? Well, we were just the people that were like, who's in charge here? And they're like, whoa, you're in New York City now, hotshot. Those are union people. You don't know how to talk to union people. You're going to mess it up. I'm like, where's this union person at? And it was like, rough, but
You
I was
were
like,
in for a treat.
but you know what? Like, I grew up with those people, man. Like that's, like I know the language.
You're battle tested for sure.
I know what's up. And so I'm like, yo, I'll give you a Lance Armstrong bracelet. You can sell it on eBay, and I will do that once a week. And you want somebody, and the guy's like, hey, my kid's birthday is coming up. I need some shoes.
This leads into, do you guys make a conscious decision to say, well, we're going to be entrepreneurial and we're going to go set sail on our own now? Or how does it come to be where like you turn into Bulu and you're the originator of this box subscription idea, and things just start blowing up now? I mean, so is there a discussion that you have with Stephanie? Like, how did it play out?
We had always done freelance work. We had always had people that would call us up and be like, hey, can you do this thing? And, you're like, well, our advertising agency is not going to make Facebook pages for Visa. Let's talk to them. We go, and, next thing you know, we're like, I'd always say we're accidentally making an extra 60,000 doing these bull crap little Facebook pages, but they actually are working in the brand. So it's cool. So we had always done that type of freelance work. Like, just people know to this day, they know if there's like a problem with their product. Like, we get calls all the time where they're like, I'm told to call you, I don't know why. And I'm like, what's going on? So we just always been those people. But in the like the process of that, I feel like ultimately net in the end, you just really start to ignore the constraints of what people are telling you, and you forget the money. And if you just focus on the problem and you figure out that piece, then you can actually look at the business model at a bigger scheme. So that ability to just go through everything, work with people and say, I know it's $1 million investment, but if we do that, we don't understand why this isn't going to turn 10, 20 million.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that a lot of people looked at us and just would say, like, you guys need to start your own thing. You guys need to start your own thing. And so we always thought it was going to be an ad agency. And kind of on a whim, I was like, I think I can put samples and do this and whatever. And poor Stephanie, like, I quit my job and I was just like, I'm gonna make a run at it. And I think about 2 or 3 days in, she walks in, we're living in San Francisco. She walks in and she's like, great news. What? She's like, I quit my job. And I was like, that's great. Why? And she's like, if you're gonna do this, you need me. And I'm like, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So I
That's
just
cool.
pulled it off. It was this attitude of like, she knew us so well that she knew our backs had to be against the wall. And if we locked in, we're going to figure it out. And we had talked about more, let me spend a year on it and then you join, and hats off to her. It was terrifying, but it just,
Liberating.
she walked in, she sat right down. And about 67 days later, we had 1.5 million.
Have you ever thought about writing a book? Well, neither did I. My life-changing experience with cancer moved me to share my story. You can get my book, Bad Days Are Really Good Days in Disguise, on Amazon. Click the link below in the description. Now, back to the episode.
Wow. So share with me how COVID in 2020 kind of made you guys have to operate differently. Now, with everything being remote and you being drop ship, does this make your business pick up?
Yeah. Everybody always is like, man, where did you guys go the last 2 years? Like, the pandemic must have been awesome for you or whatever. And I'm like, no, complete opposite. We were working with the biggest brands in the world. We're still working with a lot of them. In that state of chaos, global multi-billion-dollar brands, here is what they do. They call you up or they email you and they say, you're just going to have to wait. Like payment, all that stuff. We don't care whatever the contract said. You're just going to have to wait. And I was like, this isn't good, because we're shipping millions for these companies and we can't cash flow that for too long. We need to figure something out. And I think that's a little bit when, like, pardon my language, but like all hell broke loose, because it was out of our control. Investors wanted one thing, employees wanted, it was the pandemic. Everybody, whatever.
Let me ask you the next,
Yeah.
bring me to my next question. What is your current mission you're on?
Yeah. So we, pretty simply put, we empower consumer packaged goods brands to ship like a major multi-billion-dollar big brand. What that means is, if you aren't a global brand, or if you don't have a ton of funding, like hundreds of millions or whatever, and let's say, I'm just going to grab a coffee mug, right? And let's say you're just like selling a product like this. The advantages that Disney, GNC, Clark, we saw it. We had 50 different multi-billion-dollar big brand projects. What they get is nowhere close to what everybody else gets in terms of supply chain and logistics. And we are talking volume purchasing, we are talking every step of the supply chain is just completely different margins, completely different execution, completely different technology. And I think us having built our own products and programs, built software, worked with the biggest brands in the world for, a decade plus, we understood what technology to use, and that would allow these smaller brands selling coffee cups to ship like those major brands, because now they can not just have a Shopify website and ship to their front doors. not just an Amazon website shipped to customers' doors, not like one or two physical bricks and mortar retail stores and like, oh crap, we got to sell on TikTok. No, we go to people and we say, any channel that you want, the technology is built. You just plug and play. And when that order comes in, physically, we already have the process down. We know the West Coast distribution center for Walmarts will take grade B wooden pallets. On the East Coast, they need plastic grade A pallets. And it's the nuance of actually everything from storage to getting it to the shelf or homes or social media. The digital part's hard, but the physical part, packing to spec, because if you get the packing wrong for retail, social media, or whatever, especially big box retailers, guess what? You're getting a $10,000 fine. You're not going to be able to do it, and you're toast. And so for these brands saying like, hey, I ship, 0 right now, or 100 a month, or 5,000, 10,000, it doesn't really matter because the software is in place and the team and the processes are already documented. So wherever the order is going, we'll pack to spec. And we just tossed in there recently, and it kind of took off like wildfire. The companies that work with us, where we store, pack, ship for them, but they take it to the next level and they contact retailers, they can tell the retailer, hey, retailer, bricks and mortar store, you don't have to buy a pallet from me. You don't have to buy a case. Actually, just click the link, tell me exactly what you want. I will ship exactly what you ordered to your store. And that really has never existed for those brands.
Mhm. No.
In that time. So that's the kind of vision right now. And it feels loose, but here's the thing. If you make up your mind about a thing like that, and then you start searching for problems around in that area, it very quickly becomes clear of like things like, dude, our people that work in the warehouse, myself included, we don't wear Carhartt. We don't wear these brands that people in New York City think we wear. We don't wear John Deere. We don't, like, what do we wear? Like, dude, you wear like a Hanes shirt, like Bandit, like we know like lotion is important when you're packing, like really specific things that people that actually work, what they use and what they do. And, you just identify like, dude, there's no brand that truly people on the floor relate to. They might want Jordans or whatever, but like there isn't a brand that's like, this is me. The closest thing is like Hanes, right? And like that brand sucks. So like you identify these problems and you go, well, maybe we do something for this market and it satisfies us owning the brand. Or, there's just enough problems in logistics where it isn't a matter if we'll build something or do something. It's what does that brand communicate to the world?
Right.
Does that actually matter?
Yep.
Yeah.
Contributed to
I
a
think
good
you'll find-
cause. Well,
my friend said, because one of the things we want to do is kind of like a food line that actually makes sense for people working, because you only got 30 minutes or an hour to like eat, and it's hard to get a good meal. And my friend goes, so you're gonna make communist cakes? And I was like, what is that? And he's like, this concept of the people making the product actually receive the most money because they're doing the work, but the idea people kind of get initial, kind of like flipping the model on its head.
right.
Like, why did the people doing the work get the least amount of money, but the person that had the idea gets the most? Like, I get the thinking, but also what happens if you turn that model around? That's a very interesting brand. If I know I'm buying something and the dude packing this box gets a piece of that, I might think twice about what I buy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That I believe that's the direction we're going, because on the charity side of things, with people purchasing, they want to know what brands that are the charity or the brand that they're attached to, which charity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yours is even better because it's within the organization that the distribution of the pay is according to the level of work that's going on.
Yeah. Like I am not shy about this. And I know I get entangled up in this, but like, we want to hire minimum wage. Like, why? Not because we're like, hey, we want to just give people money, but like, that is what needs to happen in this industry so that it happens to everybody, and now we can like compete, right? And I don't,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be
Well,
minimum
you're
wage.
going to
but
push the
what I'm
market
saying-
in a different way.
Yeah, what I'm
It's
saying
the
is-
classic, you'll be taking their employees because they'd rather work in your arena than
Oh,
theirs.
we have people knock on the door all the time,
Yeah.
and they're like, why does everybody come to you? And we're like, we understand they need to take their kid to the dentist.
Yes.
Like,
All right. So now I'm going to ask you a couple of fluff questions because we
Sure.
got, what was the best compliment you ever received?
It's probably like those compliments when people don't know you're still hearing, and they kind of look at somebody and they're like, don't worry, he's got it. Like, you're like something absurd. And I'm like, you know what? I got you. I think I know what to do. And the person at work is like, he does it. And somebody's like, he will just chill. He knows what he's doing.
You know,
Those are cool when it's like a big hard thing, but the team is like, the compliment is like, no, really? I know you don't think he can. Just get out of the way.
wait and see.
So just like maybe not a compliment, just having that grace and respect to
Yeah.
those are always cool.
All right. Now, if you have a billboard, what would it say on it?
Like for me or for Bulu?
It would be for you.
Yeah.
This would be a personal thing. It doesn't have to be a Bulu thing.
It probably would say something along the lines of like something about the actual problem is starting from within you, or like pointing at people and it'd say 3 fingers are pointing at you, one pointing like something about realizing like it's not the external forces
It's
that
the
you can
internal.
complain about. You are an individual, and whatever you did to intentionally or unintentionally get yourself in that situation, you are the only person that can get you out. Yeah. So yeah. Or just like, it's probably your ego in parentheses. 'Cause for most humans, that's
I
the
love it.
actual core problem. Yeah.
All right. Well, then that brings me to my last question. How would you like to be remembered? How do you want to leave your mark?
I think that if a couple of people genuinely just kind of look at each other and go, he left this place a little bit better than before, or he did the right thing with everything that he had. Like he went out the same way he came in, trying to do the most good by the most amount of people, and he never really swayed from that. Like that's kind of cool. Like, or maybe just like, hey, he did it right. Like there's no money getting buried with him. There's no car. Like he stuck true the whole way through, despite trying to be pulled in different directions. I think that
Okay, before I go, is there
Yeah.
any place that you want to direct the audience to go to see what you're up to or get more what's going on?
absolutely. I'll first of all, thank you, man. This is great. I appreciate it. Thank you to the listeners. If you made it this far, yes, there's bulugroup.com. There's also pauljarrett.com. It's totally for marketing. But really, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're just in that space that's difficult, my email is just paul@bulugroup.com. Drop me an email. I might not get right back to it right away, but man, I just really feel like entrepreneurs or people pivoting something in their life. Like so many times it's just like, you want to yell out, you feel like you're on an island. You're like, is there anybody out there? And I'm like, I'm cool being the dude that's on the other island going, yeah, it kind of sucks right now, huh? And just kind of like telling people like, hey, like I've worked in all places. I've been a lot of like, everybody's just kind of figuring it out. You know that, right? Like they don't really know what they're doing in that room or that skyscraper or that political building. Like everybody's just kind of figuring it out. So
Figuring it out.
I just feel like the world kind of needs to know that. Like there's no big secrets behind corporate executive rooms. They're just dinking around figuring it out too.
Yeah, just doing the same thing you are. All right, Paul. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for the time. Back at you, man.
You just left your mark. Thanks for listening. Listen to more episodes on demand. Just click Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese.
If you enjoyed this episode, you'll love this next guest story. Click the link to watch now.